Mhm.
Okay, go. Hello, everyone. We are still in special session that we started at 6 p.m. today. We were outdoors in front of our building at 16 Croton. We were very honored to welcome via resolution 4 new police officers. Very excited to add to our department. We hope to see more in the future. And the board was there as well as others. So we actually are still in a special session. We already did the pledge, just for those of you joining us now. Took attendance and did the usual. What I didn't do is if there are any announcements. I'm gonna go around. Yes, no, anybody here? No, so I'll just make a couple of quick announcement reminder. Transformational Thursdays. Yes, it's here. We are number 6, yeah? I'm looking at it because I can never remember what number. We have 8 in total. They've been really, I think, very successful as far as community engagement goes. They're all recorded for those of you that aren't able to make it. I say that because when I look at the calendar of so many events on the web blast that we have sent out by our own Jamie Hoffman, there's just so many amazing things that I can understand if people are busy Thursday. So if you are, you will be able to look at the recording, but if you come, you're able to ask a lot more questions and really get into conversations. The developers will be there. So I think it'll be really great. And I think we are going to get it kicked off with our very own Dana White. So stay tuned for that. Very exciting. So yes, fireworks is right. So that's one thing. I also want to congratulate the staff. It is always a challenge to redo roads. We get a lot of requests for us to fix the roads, redo the roads, retar the roads, put better signage on the roads. Well, we did that today in the heart of our village. The window of opportunity for milling and paving was limited due to storms. We're expecting more rain. Mother Nature is not always on our side with this, but I do want to say that I was down there this morning and again in the afternoon. We do apologize to some of the businesses that we were not able to reach, but for the most part, the village manager and our head engineer did go door to door to the businesses and tell them what's going on for those that were not aware. But the good news is, I've just looked at pictures. I hope you all come out Saturday because gotta tell you, it looks really great. I've lived here for almost 30 years. I do not remember the last time we fully milled and paved the center of our downtown, and it really looks terrific. And now that we've done the ADA and everything else and the posts, and next and last, I think will be basically the actual lights themselves that we'll do later in the year. We've got a lot of compliments. I know it's never the right time, but it's done. And we hope that this weekend people will see it and enjoy it. That's my segue to please join us in Market Square during Farmers Market, 9 to noon. I'll be there. Village manager will be there. Assistant village manager, some of the trustees. Come and talk to us. Tell us your concerns, share your thoughts, ask us anything you want about any of our many multi-year projects. Give us feedback, whatever. Chat, have coffee with us, all good. Looking forward to it, 9 to noon. Please do stop by before you come and see us and do some shopping locally. So, or afterwards, the market's open till 1 in the summer too, right? So very hopeful that we'll have good weather. The weather's been a little bit crazy. And I do hope that our community, I think, from driving around, both I and the supervisor were driving around, we fared better than most communities in Westchester. I was up north of here and it was monsoon. It was unbelievable. I think we did a little better than some communities. The county's trying to be helpful with some monies. More information will come either through the mayor message or through the village communications. Okay, we have an interesting agenda today. And so I think we are ready to go.
So we are going to start with resolution E in the special meeting,
that's
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said that. Yes, we're starting with the special meeting. Very exciting aspect of our special meeting today.
Resolution E, appointments to Village of Ossining Placemaking Committee. Whereas on April 4th, 2023, the Board of Trustees unanimously adopted a resolution establishing the Village of Ossining Placemaking Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that the following residents of the Village of Ossining are appointed as members of the Village of Ossining Placemaking Committee: Jeff Shoemaker, co-chair; Joyce Chirac Cole, Mark Tenesaka, excuse me, Claudia Mausner, Stella Ebner Hector, Dominic DeAndrea, Joyce Markovics, also a co-chair, Dana Anders, Lee Taylor Mickelson, Lisa Chang, and Loyetta Walls.
Okay, so we have a motion. All right, any comments? I'm sure there might be a couple from our very own Dana White.
Yes, well, this is exciting. It's been a long process. I would like to thank everyone who applied. I wish we could have taken everyone. I think the folks that, the 11 folks on the committee represent a diversity of, talents, ages, longevity here in the village, and different skill sets. If you're at all interested, I can give you a little rundown on everybody on this list, but we don't have time for that. But we will be letting people get to know who these folks are. And I think it's pretty exciting. So thanks. And thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mayor and Trustee Quezada, for helping to interview. And, we'll try and meet for the first time this summer.
So I am excited about this personally because we don't add committees that often, although under this administration, actually we've added a few. We've also taken one down that did not seem to have enough people interested in it, and that may come back to life at some point in the future. We've been discussing this committee, so I don't want to be redundant and go through it again, but there were 30 some odd interviews and they were all good. I mean, honestly, it was so challenging. I didn't go to all of them because Trustee Quezada did some of the interviews with Dana, but I think Dana did go to 100% of the interviews because it was something she brought forth. We've been talking about what other communities do. We get a lot of interest, especially by new movers and saying, where I used to live, they do this, they do that. So it's exciting. I think it'll be a real additive to our community. And so we're looking forward to it. People, can look some of these folks up, but we're going to get presentations from this committee. And I think then the folks will get known a bit better. So we're very excited. This committee, there's some similarities in committees, but yet every committee has its own goals and purposes. This one actually, Trustee White asked for a 5-year sunset on it. It's an interesting idea. There is a feeling that some committees should have beginning, middle, and an end. They make them more pointed, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll look and we'll see what happens with that. And I think there will be a lot of exciting conversations coming out of here. Okay, it's on the floor, right? Does anybody else have a comment, question, thoughts? We're good? Okay. Are you?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if we could have a motion to adjourn into the work session for this
So
evening.
moved. Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, Karen.
First on our agenda, we have Brad Schwartz from Zarin Steinmetz here tonight with his clients regarding a zoning text amendment for 325 North Highland Avenue. And this is a use variance that they are requesting. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Schwartz so he can explain what his text amendment, I'm sorry, a zoning text amendment, apologies, but just have to do with the use. So,
Close enough.
all right. So anyway, apologies for that. And Mr. Schwartz, the floor is yours.
Terrific, and thank you for that clarification right out of the gate. So good evening, Mayor and members of the board. Brad Schwartz from Zarin Steinmetz representing Suzanne and Paul Kleinbard. I see Suzanne is on the screen with us together with her dad, Erwin Cavey. So Erwin is hiding behind all of the family's grandchildren. That's the square you see off to the side. I'm covering for my partner, Corey Solomon, who's away this week. So good to be back before the village. As I think many of you know, the Kleinbards own and run the family veterinary care of Ossining at 320 North Highland. They've been there for about 7 years. very successful, very popular with Ossining residents. They hire local staff and also offer internships for local Ossining students. They have a problem, and the problem is that they're so successful that they're now outgrowing their current space. And I think as you just drive back and forth by the site, you'll always see the parking lot full. So to address this, they have now entered a contract to acquire 325 North Highland, which is diagonally across the street as the site that we all know is the Art Barn site. They would have more space, much larger parking lot, much improved ingress and egress in and out of the site, as well as greater area for turning movements for the vehicle. So by all accounts, it's a much better site for the use. Why are we here tonight? Because this would require a text amendment to allow a vet office in the OR Office Research District, where a vet office is not currently allowed. The site they currently operate at is in the NC1 Neighborhood Center District, and I'll share my screen and just show you that on the current zoning map. As I zoom in, the green is the current location, NC1, again, where a vet office is allowed. OR, where they're looking to move, is not allowed. We think this is a fairly straightforward application. Again, the site is just across the street, and the comp plan already contemplates a vet office in this district. So this application would we think simply bring the zoning code into conformance with the comp plan. Here's an excerpt from the comp plan that identifies in the OR district. It lists animal related uses. Again, it's not reflected in the code, but it is contemplated by the comp plan. And you also see that medical offices are also already allowed in the district. So if a medical office is allowed for humans, we're asking for a vet office for animals. How do we accomplish this? It's a simple change to the use table. Here's the OR district, and where there's currently an NP for not permitted in the animal related uses line items, we would simply change that NP to a P. So we haven't submitted a petition yet. We wanted to appear tonight to introduce the concept, answer any questions, and hopefully receive the board's positive feedback to go ahead and submit a formal rezoning petition.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to just start. Stuart, any insight or input into what's being asked? And for me, as we've looked at some of these other requests, also, could you share with us, besides that one particular parcel, what else does it affect? That, because we know there's no such thing as a simple text change. We know that's
The zoning.
usually not the case.
Zoning text amendment would affect anything within the OR zone. I believe that is the only OR zone in the village. Where's the other? There's a second.
Right,
Okay.
right next to where the Avalon was built.
In a sense, so that's where it is. So that's the only locations where this change would be impacted. No other place. It's not like we were doing something in a T zone where we would have it spread
my
all over the
point.
place.
That's why I'm asking.
It's just one location. It would be a matter of them being presented to the planning board for a recommendation, then coming back to you folks for a public hearing. And as Brad indicated, it doesn't even require a change to the actual text. It requires a change to the use table. So instead of being the not permitted use, it becomes a permitted.
Which is what he stated, but
And that's basically it. But again, and thank you to trustees Kazada and Fritchie. They're just two OR districts in the village.
Okay.
They're right next to each other. So those would be the only places impacted.
okay. So comments from the board to my right?
Do I have to recuse myself if this is my veterinarian?
I don't think it would hurt if you recuse yourself since they benefit financially from you, but a lot of us shop
I
all
don't
over
know.
the place.
Yeah,
here.
I
I
don't
don't know, if we ever really recuse people,
I
we
don't think this.
have everybody
financially-
coming in front of us.
Go to stop.
I meant that as a joke, but if you're serious, okay.
I thought you were serious. I thought we were like, sorry.
No, but,
Oh, no, right, Stuart?
That would be
Yeah,
a no.
no.
No,
Sorry
you
about
don't
that.
get it, yeah.
I know that property quite well. I guess, I go to the art barn, I guess they'll be leaving, but, it doesn't seem like it would, I mean, it's a nice big lot, lots of parking, and I imagine that it would be a fine location for a larger veterinary service, maybe animal hospital, I don't know, but
My beloved Layla is a patient
Wow.
at this particular office. Has been for many years, and so I'm a big fan, and this all makes sense, and I'm certainly in favor. So happy to hear that the success and growth is happening.
I don't mean to be so specific, but we're not actually being asked to make a decision tonight because that's not in our power. This was just a request to meet with us to get a sense. So nobody should be quoting us that the board supported this and is okay with it, because there's actually a process in place. So just want to be clear for the record. Gentlemen, on my left.
I do have in concept, I think that's that, I don't see that being a problem. I guess I just, have a little bit more technical questions in here, for whoever wants to answer. So the request is pretty much to be permitted on the OR. The current location of the, of this office right now is an NC1, which is, general is permitted and animals related use, intensive is conditional use. So I guess Stuart, maybe you can help me. I'm not sure if anybody from Valerie's, you said Valerie's.
Yeah, I apologize. Valerie was unable to
Yeah,
attend,
but somebody else
and
may
I've not been able to reach
Okay,
that
that's
person.
fine.
So
Not a problem.
sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's something that, I mean, it's just me asking. I mean, what is the big difference between having just keep it as the same as that NC1 for the request of the OR portion of it? Just be consistent with what the NC1 is. Have it permitted as one and have it see as a conditional use in the other one as well.
There's another mic with that?
Longer arms. Conditional simply would mean that it ultimately would be a planning board determination.
Right.
And it would be granted anyway, but it would be granted with conditions.
Conditions.
That's
Correct.
what it means. As compared to permitted, where it's just permitted as a matter of course. So that's something that I think that when it goes to the planning board for its recommendation, they may look at and say that they would prefer that it be
Conditional and may not be
conditional,
permitted.
and then it would
Okay.
come back to you and you would ultimately make that determination.
I mean, I don't have a problem per se. That was just, I wanted to sort of be more consistent to what the NC1 is in a way with relationship to what the requests are and kind of take it from there, but I'm good either or, however they want to do it.
So
Sir?
my question is, when I go to the table where it says not permitted in the OR, animal related uses intensive. Then we go to the comp plan and it contradicts that. So and the caveat to that is it's highlighted in the OR, it says animal related uses.
And we highlighted that just to, right, we highlighted.
But did you add that in there or you highlighted it?
No, we just highlighted it for emphasis. So,
Okay.
you know, we found that in the comp plan, and it wasn't like a proposal, the summary of existing business mixed use zoning districts, and it lists animal related uses. Look,
Okay.
I don't know if that was,
So,
go
let
ahead,
me
Barry.
finish. So my next question is, the Avalon was built in an OR zone. And the last line says residential not permitted. So did they get a use variance? I'm not put.
I would need to check what
That's
they,
all.
what they received at that point. I don't know. Because I know it went through an extensive process. In fact, there, as you know, they've been back a few times for
Yes,
other, for revisions. So I don't know what the original grant was.
right.
And what, and.
I'm not expecting you to know off the top of your head. I mean, you're 99.9, but I'll give you this 0.1. But that's all I have. Thank you.
All righty. So again, we are neither supporting nor not supporting. You wanted to know where the board was leaning. I'm sure Stuart will also inform the other board that this board didn't approve or not approve, but it seems to me that if it came to us the way it is, people here seem to be leaning on the positive side of it all.
Mayor, all that would happen now, Brad and the firm would file a formal application. The board then would adopt a resolution referring it to the planning board.
Right.
So that would be the next action from this board
Got
once the application comes in from Zarin and Steinmetz.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything else, sir?
Mayor, board members, that's exactly the feedback we were hoping for. Thank you. And you'll be seeing petitions sometime soon. And Stuart, thank you for your input tonight and nice seeing you again.
Great. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Good night.
So all the pets in Ossining, thank you as well. So thanks for that. The next item up is we have Joseph Alpacella here from McQuestion. As you know, McQuestion had initiated a development on Croton Avenue at the old Sun Valley Nursery site, 136, 140 Croton Avenue. And after some time and some changes in the financing stack that they have, they are willing to meet the board's considerations for a pilot payment in lieu of tax agreement. So we have Mr. Apicella here tonight to just brief us on the process, what's changed, and also answer any questions the board might have.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. Mayor Revenant, and also all the Village Board of Trustees, the Honorable Village Board of Trustees. We thank you again for entertaining our project. The last time, by the way, I'm joined by our consultant and partner, Ron Schulman, who's done our fiscal analysis and has done so on many of our affordable housing projects. I can tell you the last time we were there and we received your comments and proposal was dated March the 7th. And there was a significant increase requested, actually a 59% increase. And at that time, amongst other things, there were several other items that were requested, including enhanced off-site improvements. At that time, given the elevation in interest rates and other economic variables, our position was to hold because we were concerned about the fiscal well-being of the operation once the building was built. However, since that time, we've explored a number of things, including a possible sale of the project, and maybe one of your other developers could combine this with his financing, Mr. Bolter. We spoke to him and we went through it with him. We never really got into any contract whatsoever, but we were looking at all the possibilities because this is such a wonderful site for senior housing. And in this case, our program is 62 and older affordable housing. What we were able to come up with is there is additional funding that has been made available in the last month or so through the federal government, through the state, and then the county that can help bridge the gap that our analysis has indicated earlier on. And so the good news is the only thing that's evolved as far as the project is concerned, nothing has changed, except we have decided to do this project as a passive house project, environmentally the highest level of green development there is known. We will also be utilizing solar for this building. We want to make it a state-of-the-art sustainable building. So we've decided to do that. And our architects are at the ready to begin this process. Timing wise, as I indicated to the village manager, we could get our financing completed in March of next year and begin construction shortly thereafter, weeks after the closing. So the good news is, and we're very happy to announce that we will accept all, unconditionally, all of the terms that were outlined by the village board. And we look forward to your final approval on this and to move forward. If there are further questions of any kind, certainly we're here and happy to answer, both myself and Mr. Schulman. Thank you.
Okay. Sir, it's okay if we'll call you if you want to take your call outside. I'll come and get you. It's okay. All right, no problem. Okay, well, thank you. I was not aware that it was becoming a passive house. I don't know, was that discussed? I didn't see that. Okay. Because,
Mr. Apicella did tell me that the other day, but I hadn't gotten a chance to communicate that to the
Okay.
board, so that's.
so
fine.
I'll ask some questions about that because I just didn't realize that's what we're now talking about. Do we have questions here well, maybe I'll go this way. Do we have questions on the left?
Thank you. Obviously, one of the biggest concerns on my end, it was the length of the pilot that you have asked. I know the majority of the board is okay with that. And the other part that I have a question is, I know this is considered for seniors. I know the municipalities have done where you can prove through the years this actually being rented out for seniors, and it won't increase the school kids coming out of this project. Is that something that you could do and provide that for this particular project as well?
Yes, yes, trustee. Is this trustee Cusada?
Yes, sir.
Hi. Yes, we can do that for you. The state program that we'll be entering into would absolutely require that as well.
Okay.
So the answer is absolutely yes. We can provide those reports. There will be 0 school-age children at this particular project.
That'd be helpful to sort of move me a little bit closer to the rest of the board. My other question is, in 30 years from now, you think the pilot will be ending at that point, or you think more or less, obviously, I'm not asking you to predict the future in 30 years from now, but a little bit of the homework that I did, I see in other municipalities, projects similar to this one had refinanced their project and now have a come in front of the board of those municipalities to extend the pilot program. Is that something that you think in the future may happen? And you don't have,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
for you to answer.
No, listen, first of all, God bless 30 years from now. I hope we're all around, every one of us, and healthy. Probably not the case, but anyway, I can only impart to you, trustee Cusada, that we have in our other projects where we have had projects that long, have never requested an extension of a pilot as a result of refinancing. But I'll defer to Ron, who has much more experience on the financing side.
Okay.
Ron?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I think with affordable housing projects, the goal is to keep them affordable as long as possible. So if this is a senior project and the pilot is 30 years, more likely than not, the goal is to keep it affordable. And in order to keep it affordable, the taxes would have to be in some type of pilot arrangement. Maybe the mathematics would be different in 30 years, but if you want to keep rents affordable to seniors who are 62 and older on fixed incomes, likelihood is that a pilot extension is a possibility. I wouldn't say definitely, but a possibility.
So can I ask you a question in that regard? So let's say you don't come in 30 years from now, I'm sure we all be around, maybe not in the same seats, or I hope not in the same
Oh.
seats. But in 30 years from now, the pilot ends. And what happens if you don't come back to ask for an extension of the pilot? What happens to those seniors that are living in those apartments?
It's a very good question. And this has happened elsewhere around the New York metropolitan area where projects age out and the regulatory agreement is over. So when the regulatory agreement is over and the tax exemption is over, technically speaking, most of the time, a project could go to market. Now, that's not really the goals of McQuestion is affordable housing. So, the goals are to keep the project affordable. Under the tax credit code, you can refinance, you can do a resyndication. Sometimes people sell projects, but I don't think it's a likely scenario that it goes to market. I mean, 30 years is a long time. It's hard to predict, but I've been in the business 35 years and I've not seen projects early in my career. Most of them don't go to market. Most of them get refinanced and they're still in affordable housing, whether it's New York City, Westchester County, Long Island. It's very rare that I see projects that were built in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, going to the market. They're really, the government, state, local, and, our governor and, all the mayors want affordable housing production to stay affordable for as long as possible.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. That
Sure.
helps. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't have any other questions.
So, I believe when you first came to us, I mean, you mentioned you've got state funding attached to this now. When you first came to us, I don't believe you had state funding attached to this project, correct?
No, sir. We always would have the state funding. Projects like these are financed typically through HCR, Housing Community Renewal. And that's how we're able to underwrite the bonds that enable affordable housing to be built. So a collaboration of state and county financing are almost always inevitably part of financing a project like this, particularly a senior citizen project.
So let me put one footnote on that if I could. The state issues bonds and the bonds are housing revenue bonds. So it's not really debt of New York State, but these are housing revenue bonds that are paid back by the revenue of the project. So the state of New York is issuing the bonds, which then allow tax credit equity to come in. And then as Joe said, the ARPA funds, which are federal funds now coming into the state and to many counties, are going to be used in this project to help bridge the gap of the financing.
Okay, thank you. My last question. We have another project that when it's built is got to go out to 9 counties to be advertised as far as for tenants. Do you fall into that same category?
Ron, you want to take it?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We haven't, it's a very good question because we haven't drilled down yet. There's going to be an overlap here with New York State Housing Community Renewal because they're going to be overseeing the tax credits. Okay, they're not issuing direct bonds. The proposal is that the Westchester IDA issue the bonds, and then we work in conjunction with the state housing community renewal for the tax credit equity. They'll oversee the tax credit process. So the marketing guidelines, I don't have them on my fingertips, to be honest with you. We're going to probably have to get back to you on that, on what the marketing guidelines are going to be between Westchester County and the state of New York.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
But regardless, we all know that this is not for Ossining residents only. So different levels of government have different points of view about what government wants. Government is many levels because the taxpayers in Ossining also subsidize this. It's not just the state or the county. I mean, it's all the tax dollars. And so the gyrations are such that while we want affordable housing for everybody, every piece of property that does not collect taxes, like when the 30 years are up, which actually I would disagree with you. I think in the world of municipalities, it's a blink of an eye. And I have sat here as a trustee when other projects have come due, and it's really hard to sit on a board when these projects come due and what to do with it and the people, because it's really about the people. It's not about the government. So this community actually is subsidizing this in some way or another. With an opportunity cost. That said, that property has sat vacant for a very long time. And so I think it's all upside from that perspective. I think you take the whole thing into one bag. It's got so much more good than not good. But it isn't just what the governor will change, everything changes. And so I don't know what it'll be like affordable housing. I hope to God we still don't need tons of affordable housing. I hope everybody can afford where they're living and where they want to live. That said, here's my concern, which just came up tonight because I did not have any concerns until this moment. We have one passive house. There are very few passive houses in the county and very few in the state and very few in the country. Our codes are not really well designed for passive. I remember the one house that we do have in this community. It took them, instead of a year, like 3 years. It required double the footprint that they thought it would require. This is a building with many units. How much experience have you had in building passive buildings of this size? This is not a house. It's a lot more than that. I know they needed double the footprint to fit all the requirements of a passive house, required a double the footprint, and it is amazingly noisy to the neighbors who live near them. It wasn't their intention. It's just the way it happened. How much experience have you guys had in building a passive multi-unit complex in a relatively dense neighborhood, densely populated neighborhood?
We have not done any passive house before this. We were exploring and are exploring this with experts in the energy field, including experts that we're working with from Manhattan that have done multiple jobs, passive house jobs like these. And the idea is, again, to make it as economically and also from an energy standpoint and a green standpoint, as viable and as sustainable as possible. If you're telling me you think it's problematic, then we can abandon that because we don't want any snafus. But we have not heard anything but positive about going that extra mile. It's an extra
On the
investment.
footprint that you presented us with those number of units and parking and everything else, you've shown
Or
it.
you- but
I'm
100
not
and-
environmentalist, I mean actual
Yeah,
engineer.
no. And most communities beg for this, but if you're telling me it's problematic, we'll back off. I can tell
Not
you
if I'm
that,
saying it's problematic. On one hand, I
No.
want to jump for joy. I love passive houses. When we had the first one, I was like, I love it. I wish the whole country had passive houses. It's
Okay.
amazing. It's not
McGann-
problematic in that sense. It makes me nervous because now there's just not many of them. And we're not building up in Katona or, in the northern part of the county where, if you need a few more feet of space because you need to put another whatever, okay, big deal. Here you really are building in a very tight space. It's already very tight. It's already pretty big for what it is. I'm thrilled for it. I mean, I'd love to make this a big headline. So on one hand, one part of me is jumping for joy, and the other part of me sitting there going, how, do we have codes? I mean, I just don't know what we have and don't have and you haven't done it. It's like a first for you too. And the first of anything always has
Correct.
hiccups. So I wouldn't use the word problematic. I would use it's exciting, but our job's actually to speak up for the community, and you're halfway done and all of a sudden you find out that you can't do the units you want. You can only do half of them because some generator requires twice the space. So I'm not an engineer. I just want to know who's involved because passive houses is like a whole, it's very exciting. It's just, you can sense that I have a little bit of concern about it. That's all. And I didn't really know that that's what you were doing. I'm assuming you're getting some tax credits for this and
very, very, very little. It's whatever it is, $1,000 a unit or something. It's very low, but I can tell you that the group we're using, the mechanical engineering firm and the McGann, who's been out there for many years doing passive house, have looked this project over already and do not see any issue with it whatsoever. And I'm happy to, as we move along, you share this with the board and share their thoughts
Yeah.
with the board, because the last thing I need or want is a delay or further forestall of this project. We don't need to keep that vacant fence up there. So I am on your page.
okay. So here's, everybody has different, $1,000 an apartment sounds actually like a lot of money, but to you may not mean, I don't know. This is not really my gig. It could be super exciting. My point of view on this is, the passive house thing is the only thing. I'd love to see these engineers and where else we've had in densely populated, because I just want to see it. I've looked this up a lot and have not seen a lot of structures. So I'd be interested in like literally getting in my car and seeing where else they've done this kind of work. You haven't, we haven't, so it's a lot of newness. Anyway, I'm gonna go to my right, as I usually do, but I just wanted to raise that one.
For a passive building, I imagine it's all electric, right?
It is.
And so do you use like heat pump technology for heating and cooling, or?
Predominantly, there'll be heat pumps similar to what you would have elsewhere. What I know about it is that it's about the envelope of the building.
Mm.
It's about sealing the envelope of the building, but I'm by no means a mechanical expert. And we also wanted to look at the possibility of instituting solar as well. So we were looking at all of these activities. We wanted to, the idea is to go the extra yard. It might be a little bit harder for us because we hadn't done it before. First time is always more difficult, but we just thought this would be a nice model project.
No, I mean, yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
So if you can pull it off, go for it. Now, just refresh my memory, this building, did it have commercial space on the bottom?
Yes, I don't have the plans in front of me, but I believe it's about Ron, would you remember?
Yeah, it's just shy. It's about 1,700 square feet of ground floor retail.
Oh, so you see like 2 storefronts or? Like,
Yeah, they're broken into 2. One, we wanted to set aside for a community use of some kind. And the other, we're hopeful to get a cafe or something that could service the residents and of course passersby. So kind of
that would be a great addition to that neighborhood for sure.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have definitely built-in clientele for something like that, because they're not going to want to go too far.
That's great.
Yeah.
Certainly
And
not
we
going to
have
want to
good-
drive.
Yeah, we have good relationship with, a lot of the national tenants in Brooklyn. We just brought in a great national tenant, and we also like the boutique-y, people. If we get somebody locally that wants to do a nice bookstore or there aren't too many bookstores around these days, and we think
We have a great one now downtown.
Yeah.
But well,
But
I just spent a rather immersive period of time studying needs of the elderly in the Hudson Valley, and I think that, right, Karen? And I think that I
No,
actually,
he
I am
knows their
qualified by
location.
age for this, I
know.
so.
me too.
He knows,
Um,
I think it's Patterns for Progress. She went through one of their
But
programs.
no, I just think the fact that affordable senior housing could be built in this community is a great thing, because, a lot of services tend to come with a more, an elderly population, but, I just think it's fantastic. So last thing I knew, the property was for sale, then all of a sudden you're back. So, so great. Anyway, that's it.
You're good. Okay, so I think it's the passive thing, and I'm excited. I mean, I just got caught off guard, so that's like a news thing. I would also say, just from the past, sir, you need to engage a community. It's in the middle of a commercial and it's not enough to send letters. So maybe staff and management could be helpful. The people in that area need to know what's going on, and because it's been sitting there and,
So we can definitely put information out there, and certainly we'd have it ready for
Right.
your message on Monday. Assuming or waiting until the resolution for the pilot's been voted on. In terms of the neighborhood, what we can do, and Joe, I'm sure you'll be amenable to this. I think that just knowing when construction will start, things like that. I would imagine that's not tomorrow. I think when we spoke, if things go according to plan, we're looking at a break ground in March sometime 2024. Is that correct?
That is correct. If we move at the pace I think we can move, and based on discussions with bond counsel at Westchester County, yes, I think he indicated we could have a closing in March and a groundbreaking weeks after, usually 2 or 3 weeks.
Is this the first passive senior affordable housing in Westchester County?
I believe so.
Oh, how exciting is that? Wow.
That would
If
be
if
a-
you can pull it off, I don't mean, I am generally an optimist. I would be very excited. I just know what, we have one of the few houses and I know what they went through. So very intimately know what they went through. It turned out to be a bigger project, but okay, you guys, it's part of what you're supposed to be doing. Great. I think we've asked all the questions. I'm sure there'll be more at some point. I don't know what we're gonna do because I don't think our codes are set up for passive buildings, but I'm sure that's a county thing. This is a project that's
Right, but
multi-governmental.
they have their approvals. This
Right.
point. They have all their approvals.
They've got everything.
They have all their approvals.
Huh.
That's correct.
Even better.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they just got extensions.
Okay.
So is the board okay?
Stuart, can you please turn on your microphone?
Is the board okay with a resolution for next week to approve a pilot agreement with McQuestion?
I'm okay with it.
I just want to make sure so I
Yeah.
can have that on the agenda. Okay,
Very exciting. Well, this is a much happier conversation that we're having tonight. So I do appreciate that people go back to the drawing board and come back to us. It doesn't always happen. We appreciate it. And Karen, is there anything else management has to focus on?
Nope.
Thank
We will, I'm sure Mr. Apicella will get back to us on any issues with going
Okay.
forward with a passive house and
You should have also mentioned that it was briefly done, but people who look at this, and they will specifically on this, sidewalks are being fixed, lighting is being put, the post that we have that connects our downtown now to the upper section, the same sort of black, I don't know what they're called. There's a name for that style of lamps that we have with the LEDs, right?
right. So
Some bicycle racks, some benches.
yes,
Those would be helpful because you're right next to a place that's a music place. There's kids, there's parents. I think it was, and then you have seniors that are going to move here. I think the combination, it's a big residential area. So I think all of those things would make that particular neighborhood happy.
yes. In addition to agreeing to the terms, the financial terms of the pilot, there were also an agreement to do, I believe, a minimum of 6 decorative lights that lampposts that would replicate what's on the rest of the street, as well as 2 benches and 2 bike racks.
For that square area. A few more of those would make me even happier, but that's okay. Whatever makes sense for that area. would
Joe
be
said he would
appreciated.
throw in a bike rack on his own ticket.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's great. We'll do that together. I'll put one in too.
Love it, Mayor.
We're good. Thank you. Mr. Schulman, thank you as well.
thank
for
you.
being here. I think that's it. Stuart, any other questions? We're good?
yes, we're good, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. My offer stands for you also, the two of you. If you want to stay for the remainder of our meeting, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you.
Usually
Thank you.
get anybody doing that, but I always offer.
okay, thanks so
Okay, are we
much.
good?
Yes,
All right, have a great
good evening. Good
Thank
good
you
night.
very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, for some time now, we've been working on cybersecurity and making sure that we are as up to date as possible in preventing any cyber risks, risks from phishing, risks from pirating, a whole range of things. We want to make sure from ransomware. And I want to commend our Christina LeBeau, who's been doing this as a staff person, as our IT associate, and as well as working with A1 Consultants and Tom DeMayo, who's a cybersecurity expert from O'Connor Davies. One of the things that has been recommended, and the county has just done this, is transitioning our email address. Instead of right now, it's villageofaustin.com. .org. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of townofaustin.com, but this would be for townofaustin.com as well as for villageofaustin.org. And it would be changing them both to .govs, G-O-V, because that actually is another layer of protection in for phishing scams. It makes it a little bit more difficult to do some of the very, very clever replication of email addresses and things that cyber criminals are good at doing. So Maddie, maybe you want to, I see you're listed here, so maybe give a little bit more detail on what's in store.
Sure. Thank you, Karen. Good evening. So this is actually relatively straightforward. Karen explained it perfectly. Basically, the reason that we're bringing this to the board is because we're looking to transition both the village and town to a .gov, and obviously it's through a central IT office, which is why it's village and town, for a couple different reasons. Obviously, the cybersecurity issues that Karen had mentioned, but also for increased searchability, and also to enhance folks' comfort level doing business with Village of Ossining and Town of Ossining email addresses. So we wanted to have a better understanding before we went forward in this process, which is somewhat regimented, in understanding two things. Number one, what are the staff resources that are going to need to be assigned in order to make this transition? And the other is the mayor had brought up a point about basically redirecting. So everything that says villageofaustin.org and townofaustin.com, how are we going to ensure that at least for a discrete period of time that those are automatically forwarded? So if, for example, someone found an old link from 2 years ago from, the 30 Water Street, DPW programs, by clicking on that link, it would bring them automatically to a redirected link. So that's the easier one. The answer is yes. So Christina spoke with A1. 5 years should be enough time, we believe. So they think that's not going to be an issue. So we can sort of alleviate that concern. And then as far as the staff time, it sounds as though the lion's share of the time is going to be manually moving each email address from .org to .gov, which again is going to be a manual process. So we're going to say it's probably going to be about a week of staff time, where we're being conservative on that. I was actually given a very specific hour, but I think that's probably.
A week doesn't mean anything. 10 people a week, 8 people.
I was told 2 hours, but I think that's probably.
On, please.
What'd she say?
I think she was saying
Oh,
speaking to the mic.
yeah, it's usually done by hours. There's no such thing as a week. Is it 40 hours of time, 70 hours? It's one person for how many hours is the metric.
I was told 2 hours, but I
Oh,
think that's
please.
probably not quite. So I was told by Christina, please say a week, which in Village World
40
is
hours.
35, 40 hours.
35 hours. right.
And
Okay.
again, to sort of echo what Karen said, we not only have our in-house staff who would be assigned to this, but also A1. So we sort of have that deeper bench. So hopefully we can, still attend to other urgent things as they come up during the time which, the manual transition needs to happen. And again, the process starts by sending a letter from the chief elected, which would be you, Mayor Levin, to, give the reasoning why behind we want to do this, and then also sort of verifying that it's the board's will to move forward with this.
So this isn't something I've discussed with my colleagues on the board, so let's do it now. This is not mandated by law that we have to do this. This is not mandated by anybody, and it will cost us money, and I don't think there are grants for this. Time. I mean, it costs time, and A1 is on whatever contract. This is really best practices, and I heard that in ICOM too. This is something that needs to be done because we have an IMA with the town. We're doing both town village. So some board members may say if it's not mandated and we're busy, we shouldn't do it. So that's why you're bringing it up now. I mean, I thought it was weird all these years that's a .org, but what do I know? So many government agencies do use .gov. So many universities use .edu. I mean, this is not abnormal, and there's a reason they do that. So we're opening up for discussion. I think I asked you also for how much it's going to cost, but you're telling me it's basically number of hours of the consultants and all that. We're going to call it 35 hours of time, and it's totally done for security. Now, just so for the record, it involves, we have about 100 volunteers, right? If we've got about 15 committees, and I think you, Stuart, have said committee members need also to have emails. There's a reason for that. So we've got probably about 100 of those people. I suggest you better speak to somebody who knows what they're talking about. Technology should not be driving our police and our courthouses. And the court reports to the court system, not to a municipality. And we've had issues where IT people drive solutions, not the other way around. So I don't know if doing .gov for the court is a thing or not a thing. I don't know if it is for the police or not a thing. These are things I'm bringing up as
The
questions.
court email addresses are going to remain NY courts. That's not changing.
That's right. They have their own.
They have their own, that's their own dedicated
Right.
servers and everything.
And what about the police? What are they?
Police are on ossininpolice.com as of this moment. So I'm not sure if that's something that had been contemplated. I would need to find out more
Chief?
about that.
You know?
We can discuss what that would
Right.
look
Well,
like
that
and
could
what
be a
that,
second
what,
phase.
yeah.
I'm just saying, we have other things we do, the volunteers, the boards, the removal of the old ones, let's just see what else we've got out there, because here's an opportunity. I think it needs to be done. If you told me you'll do it in 25, it would be fine with me. If you told me you want to do it next month because you've got A1, it's fine with me. I think it needs to be done. And I think these things are like a Band-Aid. You can't do it like forever, like one little piece at a time. It's got to be done by one group, has to be tested. It's not unusual. There's communication that's going to have to go out because people automatically, they have us all listed in a certain way. It's nice to get people to understand, but I want to be clear to my colleagues that this is not mandated. So, you know, I have to be fair here. Because I originally thought that it was by, the way Nikon talked about it, was almost like everybody has to do it, but that's actually, everybody has to do because it's good security, best practice, not because it's mandated. Okay, I'm gonna start from my left again. Oh, firehouses, what emails do they use?
They're on villageofossining.org as well.
So they'll just be part of the whole.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I think that's specific to the chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, well, I didn't think it was every volunteer. Okay. So you're good? And what's your opinion? Run with it. Sir?
You know, early today, we are talking about in some of the few conversations, we always talk about how many projects we have and, you know, how overwhelmed sometimes the staff is. And that's the reason why sometimes all the things kind of stay on hold and it takes a long time to do this. In concept, I'm okay with that. But I feel that right now is not the time. I think, you know, not only that at the time, but also I feel that, as Maddie said, I'm actually going to disagree with her 35 hours or 40 hours a week. I think it's going to be longer. Not too long ago, we actually changed to, Microsoft 360, and it took a long time to get the emails running the way they're supposed to be running. And even now, I think there's some glitches once in a while because I still get some other stuff in there that doesn't really matter to me because I don't, they go in quarantine and they stay there and they just have to retrieve them every once in a while. But it's little things like that. So I think the 35 hours are very generous in a way, very optimistic. I think it's going to be longer than that. And because of the amount of work that staff is working right now, and even though it's one and it's just one staff member, I think it's going to be involved a lot more than that. So I'm not in favor to work on this project at this time.
The request is to get the paperwork going, so it's quite a lengthy process. Like it may take several weeks, if not months, to get the paperwork going. So I think that from a staff position, getting the paperwork is the first step. That is just submitting the paperwork. It requires a letter from the
Again,
mayor.
So for me, I'm not in favor, but I'm sure if you get the majority, you can guys move forward with that.
But I want to clarify for the board very specifically. There's, it's not a matter of staff being overwhelmed. And I really want to say that the staff is very dedicated to doing things. It's an understanding of sequencing, and we will do a better job of communicating the sequencing of jobs. So, and that has to do with the jobs that fall under certain departments. So, we, in addition to the, weekly updates we give on the projects, we can also provide more updates on where we are on certain other requests from the community. I think that's only fair. But I want to clarify what I said. The doing things for security, most of the stuff that we do, and the reality is it's very hard to ever stop in place and say, this is all we can do. We can't do any more work, because every single day, the chance of something coming up that we have to be working on is just a factor. So in timing of projects that we're doing, we take into consideration that you won't necessarily have 35 consecutive hours to work on something. You may have 35 hours over the course of 2 months to work on something because of all the other things you have to do to keep your job going. So what I can assure the board is that the cybersecurity risk is something that we take very seriously, because it is a real threat to municipalities, and we know of municipalities, nearby municipalities, that have been held up to the tune. The other thing is the best practices are increasingly becoming a requirement for us to get cybersecurity insurance. So while I don't believe the .gov is required, it may well be the next time we go to negotiate, and it's very, very difficult to get cybersecurity insurance. So what I can say to the board, just to reassure that we won't be, I think that the time it could take, we have to really talk to staff. We can start the paperwork so that once we have the paperwork, then we can start the work in a meaningful way. And we can say to the board that, yes, 35 hours, but those 35 hours are going to be split over the next 6 months. And we're going to do it in a way that we don't impact other staff members because of the challenges of changing things and everything else. So I think there's definitely learning from 360, but it is something that I wouldn't, I think starting the process to make sure that we can get the .gov address and to make sure that we can do it, and then coming back to the board with this, and also estimates for all the other requests and things that are going on in a flow chart is something we can do to make sure that we just set expectations for ourselves so that we don't bite off more than we can chew or overpromise and underdeliver, but also realistic expectations for the board and the public on the things that we're working on.
Okay, so part of this is informational. Part of it is we need to deal with the bureaucracy of explanation. There's a letter, there's forms, it goes to state. You said you think it'll take a couple of months, something like that. You don't even know. It could take a month, it could take 2, it could be 3. Once we get that back, we could say it's a 25 project, it's a 24 project, it's a 23 project.
Correct.
That's my understanding. The request here is like, so I'm just hearing everybody's concern. I mean, we're doing lots of projects. This might be 25, middle 25, might be 23 because A1's available and they just hire. So who knows? We don't know. But there's a step of saying the board is being sort of, I think, educated about some idea. If we're good with the idea, and then we're talking about the sizing of it, and then and just because we do say to the state that commits us, I would assume that we then have to do it, correct?
I believe so, yes, but I think what we're doing by virtue of sending the letter is really asking for permission to make sure that we're adequately vetted. And then I think the time frame is likely
we
up to
deal
us
with
to
it.
some degree.
Right,
Yes.
okay. So I'm just getting clarification about the process, so it's not just dumped in here. Okay, folks?
I think it's a great idea. Makes all the sense in the world. The only question that I have is about logins with different things. If your sense is that these will be like email classic, will they still be around, or is your sense that it'll be once everything switches over, the recommendation is switch all your logins for different things that have your current email address to the different one?
I believe you will have to change your logins. I think as far as email is concerned, it will be automatically forwarded. So if someone didn't get the memo and they send it to your old email address, it will come to your new email address automatically. But for example, if you go to log into Zoom, you would likely have to change your Zoom login. Yes.
70 hours. The mapping of all of this, just letting you know. And I don't have a problem with that at 70. I'm just saying.
So, and again, so it's not just that. And there's also, I guess, some of us have business cards still. So all that stuff, if anything, unless you don't want to use a pen and kind of correct it, to GOV instead, that means another cost. So I want to make sure when you guys agree to do the changes, make sure you take in consideration what else needs to change.
Everything has to, all the papers, all the vinyl, all the paper, all the vinyl. Although for me, honestly, if we didn't have business cards,
I'm okay
wouldn't
with
bother me. Every one of us gets one card with a QR code. I'd be just as happy. And take the opportunity, frankly, to clean up a whole bunch of stuff, but there are signs, and if you have URLs and other places.
Again,
well,
so
the whole idea
it's
is
just,
that
it's just
URLs
not,
are
yeah,
okay.
no, again, so it's not just a project of,
It's
you know,
not just an
it
IT
just,
project.
exactly, it's just that.
Understood.
So I want to make sure when you guys agree with all that stuff, make sure there's a number. And it doesn't have to be the final number, but make sure there's a budget. Because again, when we talk about projects early in the year, we sort of have an idea of the budget. And this is a new project, which again, in concept, I'm okay with that. I just don't think is the right time to do this. That's all.
Okay, well, fair enough. You're okay, timing up to staff, but I think also it's being brought up is we just like to get for our own personal edification. Some of us have gone through this, some of us frankly have lived through a few of these things, and for each thing is an opportunity to improve, right? So let's keep that going. Dana, I believe you're up at bat. If you have any comment, you don't have to. It's
No, I'm all for beginning the process anyway.
okay. Great. So I think that's what you needed. I'll sign it tomorrow. You have actually my digital signature if you want to use that. I don't know if that qualifies. If it isn't, I'll sign it on behalf of the board with the explanation. Fantastic. Okay, next item on the agenda, I think. Karen, it's your.
Sorry, I was
Okay, if you
just,
need a minute, just, we can take a minute.
it's fine. Next on Corporation Counsel, Kahan will be discussing revised village sexual harassment policy, another best practice exercise.
Okay, can I ask, since we have someone here who I think is on, can we just flip you so that he doesn't have to stay here for yet? Okay, so can we just move to the 8?
Oh, sure.
Against it, I think that's why, I think I got your first name, which is George, but I didn't hear your last name, so.
So we'll do a little switch here in the agenda. And we will, again, Corporation Counsel will be, Kahan will be discussing a request for a license agreement for 8 Narragansett, where we are looking for, the owner is building retaining wall that impedes on the village right of way. So he's asking for a license agreement with the village.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi, Ms. Pereira. How are you? This is an application, well, back up. I've sent you the photographs. I sent you the survey. The wall that was constructed by Mr. Pereira does encroach on the village's property. There are, and there's currently a stop work order. Part of that was because there's also a wetlands there, but it was determined that there is no need for a wetlands permit. We had that reviewed by Kellard, so that part of it is taken care of. There are currently 3 open permits with regard to the property, one with regard to a tree removal, one with regard to solar, and the last with regard to foundation and to construct a rear addition. The first 2, I believe there's going to be an inspection tomorrow by the building department to basically clear those 2. As to the last one, that work, I believe, there'll be a new permit filed because the old one has expired. But what we're talking about now deals with a retaining wall. I do want to be clear on something, which was what Joe Augustinelli said to me. Unlike the circumstance that we had further down on Narragansett, if you recall, that the retaining wall had to be constructed because basically it was falling apart and was needed. There was in fact a retaining wall here. It was covered by grass, but there was a retaining wall here. The wall that was put up is certainly a nice wall to look at, but we're not talking that it was a wall that, I guess the best way to say it, had to be put up because of the circumstances. And the question here is, does the board wish to enter into a license agreement with Mr. Pereira? In the past, when there was a similar type of wall constructed on Washington, the board imposed a charge of $1,500. The more recent license agreement that we had, dealt with the stairway on Denny Street. That was $500. But you may recall in that case, if they didn't have a staircase, they'd have no ability to get upstairs, essentially. So that's where we are. So this is basically before the board. Mr. Pereira, the board is here to consider whether or not there should be a license agreement with regard to the wall that has been put up. And
Wall was just built, correct?
the wall has been constructed. It is not completed because we
But it
put
was
a
just
stop.
done recently. like
Yes,
started on
this is
Sunday.
recent. This is very recent because the building department was going by and it was observed. And I know you, Mayor, drove by, I
We
believe. this
drive
past
by it
week.
every day.
So that's the long and short of what we have here.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts and opinions? We have to make a decision. I can start on my left.
Thank you for that, and I know. Thank you, sorry about that. So I know the municipalities, and this is a little bit weird, sure. I know the municipalities, there's a cutoff of how old the survey could be. So I was looking at the survey that you provided to us. And it's very hard for me to read the survey because there's a lot of
I have a
stuff.
far better copy if
You do?
you'd like it. Yeah, because on the county's website, there's actually a clean copy.
It is.
So if you'd like,
I'll
I'll
be-
be happy to send this around.
That'll be great,
There you
please.
go. Just need that. There you go. Did you want to take a picture? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Here you go.
So it indicates where the curb line is and where the line for the property was to the property line, as well as for the structure to be constructed. That's the plan when they subdivided the two lots, the one lot into two, one of which is the Pereira location.
Oh, this is sorry. Okay, so it's very similar. So no, this is that this one, sure? Yeah,
No, no,
that's
I'm
this
sorry.
one here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Confusing like that. Okay. Stop confusing me. Okay.
Similar, actually.
Yeah, very similar. It's just a lot. This is definitely clearer than
It's
that.
just
Thank you.
cleaner, yeah.
Sure.
The reason I was asking, obviously, that it showed the stairs, it shows the walkway to get to the house. It does not show a wall in here. By looking at the photos that you provided, and obviously on the Google map, you can actually see there was something sort of in there on one side. It's clear on one side of
Right.
the property than the other. Where am I with this? I'm gonna say no. I think I'm really, we understand, when a homeowner comes in, you understand that, you have you need to get a survey, you need to get information in there. To me, is like education, and just to hear that some of the violations, some of the stop work orders are done, because he has done other work in the house without a building permit. I want to make sure that I'm just stopping this sort of cycle in a way. So
Well, just to
My-
be clear, there were permits for the tree removal, tree is
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Were permits for the solar, that's been taken care of. They actually did put the foundation in, and that's been inspected. But because of COVID, they were unable to complete the rest of the rear. They
Got it.
did go through the BAR and got all
okay,
that done.
so you got all the
Uh,
approvals,
Right,
right?
so,
okay,
so
got it.
I just want the record to note that all did occur.
So in this case, he went through the process, as you stated, back in the day. So now it has a little bit more perspective. So at that time, he was sort of aware of what's going on in here, have an idea at least of, what is your property, and what is not your property. So, but in any case, I'm gonna say no. I'm not in favor of having an agreement in this particular case.
Rob?
So I'm looking at the survey. What is our easement from the curb line? That he's, how bad?
He's basically just about up against the curb
Oh,
line.
no, I could see the pictures.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much
We
totally encroached.
so we own about more or less 10 feet.
Mhm.
So
But that's
from-
our right
from
of
the
way.
Right of
You would
way.
have a right of way under any circumstance.
yeah.
And it looks like from there's also water lines directly underneath there, because there is a reference there. I should point out, because it's something I had asked Joe Augustinelli, there would be, putting aside ownership, there's no permit required for this wall because of the size of the wall.
The height.
So I just want folks to know that it's not as if Mr. Pereira built something without a permit. He would not have needed a permit, given the height of the
Built it
wall.
on our property.
No. I said, putting aside the property
I
issue.
got it. Okay. I'm gonna let you, it's, you're gonna get a chance. We're gonna have every talk, which helps you because instead of having a back and forth, you hear all the concerns. You hear how people are doing it. And then I'll invite you to speak up. It'll just be easier that way. So just remember what people are saying and then I'll invite you to come up, okay?
So again, you brought up a good point about water lines
Oh.
and stuff. That I'm very concerned about that.
Right.
Because that very well could take a big chunk of that wall down and they have to get in there. So, yeah, I'm not in favor.
I'm gonna go this way. And if you want me to bring gentlemen up, I can, if you guys want it. I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to hear what he.
Oh. okay, so why don't we could do that now because at least you've heard a couple of things. There's a microphone
We're
here
right
and the
here.
reason, and it's because we do have people on Zoom, okay? So all you need to do is state your name into the microphone,
George Pereira.
okay? And thank you for coming in,
Sure.
sir. And this is your property.
Yes.
Okay, please.
And the stone wall was there all the time. I'm dealing, actually, I push it back a little bit. If you go there, you notice where's the shut off water and the gas is exactly the same height of the wall. You need to have something. If you don't do the half the wall, how are you going to hold the dirt? The dirt not going to fall up on the street. How are they going to hold the dirt? Means the water was there. If you notice, you go there, you see the shut off from the water and the gas is exactly the same place where they are all the time. So how the dirt wouldn't go down if you didn't have stones holding the dirt?
So in the picture I'm looking at right now, I see one piece of a wall on the northern side of your
So they have
staircase.
things in the top, those.
There's nothing here on the other side. I see grass.
No, it's not grass. On top of the grass, you have the things, those like not trees, like a plants, they grow over the wall. If people knows that property a long time ago, they knew, if you pay attention, they had the wall there all the time.
Yeah.
I
The wall-
just was fixing it.
It's not that height, though. The wall was like, if this is the ground, I mean, we're neighbors. I live
Yeah.
down the road from you. The wall was like here, the grass grew right over it. Now the wall is like up. here.
Now it's basically
3 to
20
4
feet, 20 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet.
3 feet versus
No,
about.
no,
6
now it's 2
inches.
feet.
2 feet versus about
So
6
it's,
inches.
if you go from the curve, maybe 20 inches, 20, if you measure from the top of the curve, 22 inches.
All right, so I understand what you're saying, that you believe because there was one there, you should be able to build another.
We're just fixing it because it's falling apart and make sure that the
Understood. That's, okay.
I was not doing nothing new. I'm just repairing what is existing and make it look, the only thing I made it look better. That's the only
Very
thing that I
nice.
did. The rest, and not even, I put on top of the gravel and everything nice with the filter fabric. So if you need to get it's easy to get out. If I need to move, it's easy. If there's a problem with the water, the gas, it's easy to get out. And I'm not asking nobody to maintain the wall. I'm maintaining the wall.
Well, you have to.
Yeah, but they said that if no, but when I said the building department said, if when they clean the snow, if somebody hits the snow, that was complaint. The wall was falling apart. I was trying to just to fix it and make it nice.
Understood.
So I don't know if we without the wall, how do you gonna support the dirt? You're gonna take the dirt to remove the dirt. You're gonna have to adjust the water shut off and the gas shut off. That the gas company and the water company have to go there for me to take the dirt out of there.
We'll get back to that, but we just want to hear your point of view. Do you have any questions? Or comments or thoughts?
Yeah, so thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so my main approach when it comes to situations like this is consistency. I want the way that we are treating you to be consistent and fair with the way we treat anyone else. And it seems to me like in the couple of cases that our lawyer has described, that in the two cases, one, it was necessary for being able to get into the particular home, and in the other one, it was more decorative, if you will, less structurally necessary. This is somewhat in the middle of what I'm hearing. Your argument that it is more structurally necessary not to enter the home, but because of, there are all of these effects that dirt will come down or whatever. I feel like I don't necessarily know enough, given the arguments that you're making, and then some of them my colleagues are making, to say definitively, I'm definitely in favor or not. If anything, I probably lean a little bit more toward pay a fee and doing it the way that we did with that particular case. But I would like to learn more information of what would happen if we were to say, okay, we're not going to allow it and the wall would need to be removed. What would that process look like? What costs would be incurred? Who would incur them? All that kind of stuff. I would need to know that information. That's where I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the wall? So this was a wall you built from scratch or you repaired an existing wall?
I even was doing by sections for the people to see it there. I don't know what they just in the end, because I was even on the first, when I take the only say they saying that was no wall, I just took part out little by little, so in case if someone would go there, they could see it that the wall was there. And I just the wall was there. I just since I was.
It was there when you bought the home.
Yes, all the time. I don't know many years, many years ago.
And so you decided to improve it.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
stones are falling.
And you
apart.
didn't get a survey and was wrong because it was been there.
Been
'cause
there,
it was
yeah.
already
It's not something that is not that was building a new wall.
Are there any pictures of the before wall?
That's the before wall, see? That
This is
thing?
2013. I don't know. It's-
But I don't know what to all they get the picture because if you go, the good that has all the things.
Not actually. Hold on.
It's not, it's just.
No,
stone.
but if you go, if you took, we had a lot of, that picture is, I don't know when they took that picture, but that picture is away. Because when they cut those like, is like, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, they're up there.
There's a lot, all the headstone back there. I don't know how old that picture is, but all that was stone.
The picture is not that old
Isn't-
because your deck, that thing is.
It's,
recent.
this picture has to be,
2019.
Yeah.
That picture,
Yeah,
is-
that-
Google map is. for
Because that
2019.
thing that you,
That
that
tree
we're
is not
looking at,
different.
you fixed that. That wasn't there before too. Like I said, I drive by there. The house looks very nice, by the way. That's not the question at all here. Okay,
We go back to what it's now.
what he built?
It's a significant difference.
look, you can even see the shadow of the water right there, the water. You see the water right there? You can see it. Is it the same height? I didn't touch the height of the water. Well, it looks deeper because right now I have this much, you have to put this dirt to the level of the curb. The picture, or if you see the curb, you had to put at least 7-8 inches because that's deeper than the curb, you know?
Okay, Dana? Do you have questions or
The
comments?
dirt is there, because when you put the grass between the wall and the curb, is at least 8 inches that's gonna get higher. Because I just want that deeper, make sure the wall, because the wall is basic, if you see the grade is there, the water, you see the height of the water is there and they are at the same position. I didn't change the grade.
Do you have any other questions? Do you have any comments about which way you're leaning?
And if you take the wall, what are you gonna do with the water? You see the water, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna hold the dirt over there? You're gonna send the water company to lower the the shut off valve for the water if it was there all the time at that height?
So, Dana, do you have any more questions or comments or thoughts?
It just feels like it's more than improving what
Yeah.
was there. You built a whole new wall around the lot.
Yeah.
And how many sides? How many sides of the?
Well, he was
property?
stopped. It's an L shape. He was stopped.
No, it's just the front. Well, the L shape is for the stairs. I have to hold.
Yeah.
Was there on the stairs. So I always had to was holding the stone
No,
was
it's-
always there. Otherwise, the dirt would fall. You see the back, the dirt would fall on the stairs if I don't put the stones. If I don't put the wall there, those stairs are there for a
Wow.
long time. If you had those stairs have been there all the time.
Right.
How you think the dirt without having something to hold the dirt? If you have the steps there.
Stuart, how many inches onto our property did he build?
Excuse me?
Onto our property, well, we have just about like a 10-foot right of way. And if you look at the picture, he's maybe 3 or 4 inches off the curb with the new wall that's there. So it's definitely on our property. I mean, there's
No, I know it's on our property.
how many, and, you know, I don't have Joe Augustinelli here, so I'm sort of like, if you want to call it.
Understood.
But a few things, Joe indicated that if you look at the other homes along that area, you don't have a wall similar to what Mr.
That's
Perez
right.
has installed. And from what Joe said to me, what is shown in the photo that's up on the screen right now, there was no reason that there would be any dirt coming down or anything like that. In other words, this was, in the opinion of the building inspector, more of a decorative
Right.
work than just, as we said, on the further down on Narragansett where we had the collapsing wall. So just for what that's worth.
Okay, so does that change or give anybody more information or? So here's my opinion about it. The things that we've done in the past, which I wasn't crazy about either, were must-haves. Literally, people couldn't get into a house if they didn't go 2 or 3 inches into something. In my opinion, while I 100% believe that you thought you were just fixing a wall, you're not really fixing. You built a wall and you built it. It's just like building it on your neighbor's property without asking permission. The purpose of the licenses is not to allow people to build and say, oh, I'm sorry that I did that because I thought it was better. We look at our building to believe that that the ground isn't going to fall, etc. This is not a must-have. This is a nice-to-have project. It is very nice looking and it cost you real money. And it was done, I think, like, I don't know, 2-3 days because I drove by there and I noticed it being built. It is not consistent with your neighbors. It isn't like you could even say it continues something. I'm having a really hard time justifying it because in my opinion, it should have been built back where it should have been built. And the fact that there was even a stone there, first of all, it wasn't really a fence. It's about a few inches off the ground with grass over it. The truth is, the building department probably should have ticketed that years ago when they first saw it. You know, they can't catch everything. The fact that something was done incorrectly doesn't mean that when you build new, you continue to do it incorrectly, unless it's a must-have item. A ramp for a handicap, a way for a car to get in or for a human to get in. The way those steps are done, that fence could have been done farther back. And we don't do licenses just because we do it for others. We do license agreements because they're must-have builds. This is not a must-have build. It's your opinion that the ground would move and all that. It isn't the department's opinion that any ground would fall. And frankly, it's been there for years with something 1/10 of the size or 1/3 of the size and the ground hasn't moved. So it's a beautifully aesthetic, and I feel awful that you paid someone to do that. But you, just like you got other permits, you're doing a huge amount of construction on that house, which is very lovely and very good. And you're expanding the house. So you know that you need to get, now I appreciate the knowledge, which I didn't have, that he doesn't actually need a permit for that. But it's also fair to say that regardless of whether you know or you don't know, you built something on property that belongs to the taxpayers, not to you. And you really can't do that. So I am really leaning towards not being in support of a licensing agreement, because we are now setting ourselves up for just giving everybody who builds because they didn't know or they thought it looked nicer up the road from him. That retaining wall was there and it really is dangerous. And if we could have moved it back, which we tried to do, we saved all those stones when it washed out. We literally tried to help that person. The pool was leaking. It was causing damage. It's on a sidewalk where people are walking with their children. It was falling onto. Those are must-haves that we do licensing, and we try to do that. This isn't. I hate this, and I hate that you're doing something beautiful, truly nice, but you can't build on village property and set a precedent that sets this thing that isn't actually necessary, according to our department. I'm not an engineer. We have people that do this for a living. This is their expertise, and they have clearly said, if I understand correctly, that this was not necessary to do it there, that it could have been built correctly where it belonged. And had it been done correctly, it wouldn't damage the water, It wouldn't have damaged the ground leveling, the retainment of anything, et cetera. If I want to make sure I'm hearing that right.
You are hearing that correctly.
Okay. And so, did you guys both, you said you're not in support, and you said, are you changing your mind? Are you changing your mind? What are your thoughts after this conversation? Do you want more information to hold off, or are you ready to make a decision so that we can go forward? He's gonna, I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
I'm a no.
You're a no. You're a no. Sir, would you, the Board of Trustees unfortunately does not agree with where you're going with this. We appreciate that you're beautifying the area. We appreciate that you're building out your house and that you're getting permits and all that. But that retaining wall, Stuart, what has to happen now?
It would have to come down. It's built.
It has to move it back.
Well, either back, he could build it back on his own property, on his own property line. That
Or
you could
take it down
absolutely do,
altogether.
or take it down altogether.
So, but what are you gonna do with the water? Or the water shut off? It's there. If you take the water, what's gonna happen?
You can always communicate with the water department in terms of any of the water shut off. or any of
Because it
the-
was for me, I would prefer to have the build the water, or to build the stone, the wall further closer to the house. If it was not because of the water, and those steps are there all the time. What are you gonna do with the steps? Are you gonna hold?
The steps don't move. Those steps start a few feet over from the curb. You have plenty of room to build a smaller retaining wall, the same part of the retaining, but farther back and totally on your property. It doesn't affect the steps. It doesn't. You have to rebuild it farther back, and it doesn't interfere with the steps. I have an opinion, but we actually go with our engineers and our water department, and they're gonna have to go and inspect and make sure that we can do this
As I said, I think that Mr. Agostinelli is going to be there
tomorrow.
tomorrow
Okay.
to do inspections with regard to both the tree and the solar. So if
Tree,
Mr.
that big tree.
I know it's down already, but if Mr. Pereira is there, that may be the time to have a
Yeah.
discussion with.
So let me ask you this sort of a caveat on this one, because obviously and the steps, there must to be something in there. At least on one side there was a wall. So is it okay for us to accommodate a partial wall on the side of the steps?
If you go there, it's.
So it's
if
not,
he moves
okay.
up Back the
Got it.
5 inches. Those
Okay.
steps don't start till later.
Okay,
They
got it.
really don't.
I will leave that on
I'm-
up
I
to
didn't
George's
think-
criteria.
It's
Yeah,
have-
yeah,
Stop by
definitely.
and look. I mean, it's just not. You can
Yeah, I
see
mean,
it, it's not necessary.
yeah, I'm still a no, but I'm able to accommodate
Joe is gonna go out
something in
tomorrow.
there to support that.
The
Yeah.
board unanimously said that you can't build on property, even if you don't know that you're supposed to get a permit or not, or have somebody look at it. That is the way it works. So when Joe goes out tomorrow.
Right.
If Joe finds something with the stairs or whatever, I doubt that, because I think he's been out there.
Right.
I mean,
Yes, he
it's
has.
very,
It's
you
up
know,
the
he's already
stairs.
been out there. So you will then send us an email. But short of that, the board, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately not because of our decision, I know that you're doing great work. That is not, it's beautiful. It looks beautiful. You simply can't build on something that's not, you can only build on your property. It doesn't matter whether you think it's great or not. You can only build on your property,
Just
and that's it.
Fixing replacing a wall for a wall that was there.
Not exactly, actually. So I don't want to get into that. We looked, you've heard the opinions. Joe can help him tomorrow, see if we can accommodate something. We always try. But the vote of the board on this, I think, was pretty clear, and Joe can explain that as well. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, I'll speak with Joe as well.
All right, so tomorrow he'll be out there.
For me, I prefer to have done the wall 4 feet back for the stairs. I would prefer. The thing is, the water there, that I didn't want to interfere with that. You're talking about after they put the dirt between the curve on the wall is going to be less than 2 feet.
We'll have somebody look at it tomorrow, but I suspect that they stopped order, that they may not agree with you.
The water department has no problem. They can lower their shut off. That's just a stem down to, that's something they do every day. So that's not a big hiccup if you do decide to rebuild it back farther.
So have Joe go out. If the
Yep.
water department has to come out to look at it, and let's figure this
We'll get it
out.
taken care
But the votes, we've looked at it, we've seen the pictures. We've driven by there, some of us. It's, this is where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Pereira.
Thank you.
Corporation Counsel Kahan will now discuss the revised village sexual harassment policy.
Thank you, Karen. Folks, a few weeks ago, Labor Council sent around a note to staff indicating that the state had promulgated some new guidelines with regard to the sexual harassment policy. And basically, what the state rule is that if you either adopt our policy or you adopt a stricter policy. So what I did was to take the village policy as it currently exists, take some of the language that is in the state policy, because we had a lot of it already. There are a few things that were clarified in terms of who would be covered by the sexual harassment policy. And it, to put in volunteer board members, I put in OFD and I mentioned that, and Chief Scarduzio has already seen this, so he's aware of it. There was a slight change with regard to how it would be reported if, for example, the personnel director was involved or if the village manager was involved. But the important thing is to have this. We already have a complaint form. We don't have to change the complaint form, but this would just essentially adopt what is effectively the state's policy, and would become policy across the board. So it would be for village employees, for OPD, for OFD, for our board members, for volunteers. This would be the policy that they would handle. It's sexual harassment, but it also deals with discrimination sort of overall as well as retaliation. And it follows the state labor law as well as the guidelines set forth by the state. So it just sort of updates it. If you look at it, what I sent around, whatever is in red would be new.
I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't
it.
mean to interrupt.
Nope.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read it? I don't know if everybody got, yeah. Anybody have issues on this side? Issues? So the only thing that caught my eye on the second read is that it goes up to the village manager. I'm not looking for more work, but the fire department doesn't report to the village manager, but HR does. We live in a complicated village structure. I noticed that you even commented that for lack of, it's the structure. It's not, everything else is fine. Like we should do that, but I noticed you did that. So I just wanted to.
Well, what I did was for OFD would have been the only department that would have done its own internal
I
investigation.
saw that.
So it will go back to personnel instead.
Right.
If there is a conflict with personnel, it would go to the manager. So the manager is sort of only second. It only would come to me if its manager and personnel can't do it. So, but in essence, everything
The
would
issue
go.
is that in Austining, OFD reports to the board or to the mayor, not to management or
Right, but in terms of a harassment complaint, if the complaint is found to have, you want to call it legs,
Right.
then there is a whole disciplinary procedure that can be followed under the general municipal law and things like that, but just the investigation.
The judicial role on those.
Correct.
So we're back to that. That was the only piece I sort of
Yeah.
caught a little, because even you were saying, for lack of this, I'm doing
Right.
that. All right, so, everybody's good? I mean, if that's the
Otherwise,
state- is there timing on that? Like, when did the state say you have to do it by?
I'm trying to remember what Lance's memo was. He basically said to really try to do it as quickly as you
Okay.
can. The state,
Everything Karen gets is do it as quickly as you can. I mean,
But,
everything.
but they
except
never
what the
said
state gets.
specifically. But
I mean, doesn't the state say it has to be done by January of 24?
they did not, they didn't, but what they want is that basically, whenever we do our annual training, we have to have the policy in place. We also have to have the policy available in the language that the employee finds to be their native language, if that's what they prefer. So if we have employees who speak Spanish, we have to be able to translate it into Spanish.
Okay, but, all right, I don't want to get into a conversation now.
but in
but-
any event,
but
that's-
digitally,
that's what
that should
this
be
is.
automated.
And otherwise, we can, have a resolution next week to just adopt this policy across the board.
Okay, town also?
No, this is just village.
This is a village, so it's the fire, it's the police, it's all our volunteers.
Yes.
We have the park and rec is both town and village, so that might get a little, aren't they mandated to do it as well? Not that it's my
Well, volunteers are mandated, our board members take the course already. But again, this is with regard to village, if you want to call it
Okay.
volunteers. So if there's a town person, town would adopt their
They
own.
have to do their own.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we don't have, it's good. Everything's good on this side.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That concludes our agenda for this evening.
Hey. All right, are we adjourning?
We have a
Motion to adjourn.
Exec, I believe, for matters of personnel
Legal,
and
legal.
legal.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, 9:01 on Wednesday, and this meeting is now concluded. And thank you all. Please do join us Saturday to meet with us one-on-one or in a group with questions and comments. Happy to see everybody out there at the farmers market. Have a good evening.